Okay, so this video is just gonna be going through Unit 1 to just help me kind of prepare and going through the things that I struggled the most with and just common definitions and then going through some examples. So just first starting out with the chapter with some key terms, categorical data, that's just data that's not numbers. So instead it can be like um, if you're a Republican or Democrat, or your grade in school, or just things that are data but not necessarily numerical data. Continuous data is data that can be measured in decimals and fractions and stuff. So like weight, you can weigh like 13.654328 6 pounds. So that could be continuous, but if it was like people, you can't have 0.6345 of a person. It's just one person or no person. So that would be not continuous. And then data is just a piece of information. That's pretty simple. Descriptive statistics is describing the characteristics of a group for a tree of data. Discrete data, which is the opposite of continuous data, is counted or tallied data, so like number of people, for example. Inferential statistics, and it's kind of just in the name, which helps me remember. Infer, so it's when you like compare and test, and it helps you predict from what we know about a sample population. And then a class, if this can be used in like frequency charts and histograms. It's a range in which numerical data can be grouped, and the class bands and frequencies also often change. And then cumulative frequency is the sum of a series of frequencies in a data set in which frequency from one class is additive. The sum of frequencies of all classes below it. And then the frequency is just the number of observations within a range of data. So like if the number 1 appeared 5 times, the frequency would be 5. And then the stem and leaf plot, which you can see right here, is just a simple way to show data. So for example, like this would be 9, 12, 18, 13, 19, 15. And these typically have keys with them as well, which is important if you ever get an essay question on that. 5-number summary is the minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and maximum. And that is super simple. If you plug into your graphing calculator, go to list 1, and then go to stat, and then calculate, you can easily find that. An outlier is an individual falling well outside the overall pattern, and usually you can tell just by looking at a graph or something if there's an outlier, but to tell for sure, for lower outliers, it's quartile 1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range, and the interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. And then for higher outlier, it's the same thing except with quartile 3, and you're adding instead of subtracting. And then I just went over interquartile range, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the bimodal is when something has 2 modes, and a mode is something that like happens the most. So like for example, this has 2 peaks. So I can't really read the graph, but I think it's like 25 and 75 both happen the same amount of times. They're both peaks. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, I just wanted to go through a few examples of some things I kind of struggled with. So just like for these ones, I didn't really get this at the beginning, how to tell between parameter and statistic. But so for example, number 1, the percent of people in the population who will vote for candidate A, that is a parameter because it's the whole population. And I remember that because parameter and population both start with P. And then number 2, the percent of people from a random sample of 250 people who say they will vote for candidate, that's a statistic because it's based off a sample, and I remember that a statistic and sample will start with that. Okay, so for this one, we want to find the mean. The mean of these numbers. Okay, so I'm gonna plug. So all you're gonna do is plug all these numbers into the calculator. And then you're going to add them all up and divide by the number of numbers, which I'm working on right now. Or I could just enter all the data in the data set, which is probably what I'll do. I'll put them all in list 1, and then you can easily find the mean, median, and mode by just doing one calculation. So let's see. Okay, so doing that, the mean would be 16.458, and the median would be, let me find it, 17.5, and the mode would be 23, which honestly, the mode you can just tell, just by, you can tell it's the one you typed in the most, so that's pretty simple as well. And then just like looking at graphs is another thing I want to do, because this is probably one that tripped me up. But if you look at this one, that one is left skew, no skew, and right skew. And how I remember this is, if it's left skew, the hump goes to the right, so it's like vice versa. So yeah, that's pretty much the things I wanted to go over for chapter 1, and I typed in my notes in the video I watched. So yeah.